Welcome to the Love Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Frigon. You may know me from Project Love, where we focus on operational excellence, but here we go deeper. We're your go-to for raw, empowering conversations on entrepreneurship and stepping into your CEO role with love and confidence. Each week, we'll explore everything from mindset shifts, leadership, optimal wellness, to efficient systems, all within a community of visionary women like you. Ready to get real about building a business and life you love? Hit subscribe and let's start this transformative journey together. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by the lovely Gabrielle Laura. Gabrielle is an intuitive channeler, speaker, podcast host, wife, soon-to-be mama, and animal rescuer, which speaks to my heart deeply. And she helps you manifest your dream by sharing manifestation hacks straight from the source. And she is the real deal. I'm telling you, the manifestation tips and advice and just insights that she gives are just not like the other stuff that you see online, and it's just so incredible. So I am so excited to welcome you to the podcast, Gabrielle. I am so excited to have you here to share your insights, your expertise, and your journey. So before we start, but for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit more about you personally.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everyone. So my name's Gabrielle, and I am 30 years old. I got married about a year and a half ago. I've been with my now husband for almost 9 years. I grew up 30 minutes north of Boston, Massachusetts, and I now live in Rhode Island. Massachusetts is incredibly expensive to buy a house, and when we were looking, we just could not. We were getting outbid by everything. We were buying a house during that crazy time. So we settled in Rhode Island, which is really cute. It's like a hidden gem. But we used to live in New York. We lived out in New Mexico, which is our favorite place ever. And now we settled back here. At the time of recording, I'm 34 weeks pregnant with our first baby. We're having a little girl. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm just really happy to be here and share more about manifestation and just my journey and the stuff I see in the space and how I approach this as a channeler, but also somebody who was in such a desperate spot, tried a lot of the manifestation stuff out there, and nothing worked. And I couldn't figure out why. I just thought something was wrong with me. And I thought I was getting punished. Oh my gosh. So now on the other side of that, I could see what was going on and why, and how I had to navigate that to now be in the position to share practical manifestation tips with people to really call forward everything that they want, because it is possible for you. There's just action steps to take to get there.
I so resonate with your story. The frustrate, I'm there. I'm in the thick of it, like you were years ago.
Yeah.
And just experiencing, I'm just like, oh, it's challenging. It's
it can
yeah.
be heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. And yes, the thick of mine was years ago, but from October to January of this year, I had to uncover a ton of subconscious blocks again. And it looked different. I mean, back in the day, all money was stripped from me, everything. And luckily that wasn't the go around this time, but it's uncomfortable and it's heavy to do this work at times, but the less you fight it and the more you just embrace it and do it, the quicker it goes. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about all that.
All right. So let's start at the very beginning, on your journey to entrepreneurship. Was this actually something that you wanted to do? What was your experience with the manifestation stuff? How did you get to where you're at today?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I always joke that my first sentence as a baby was, I'm going to be an entrepreneur one day, which was not my first sentence, but I just always knew I was going to. I always knew. And as a kid, I had this unwavering confidence. I was like, I do not give a hoot what is in my way. I am running a business and it's going to be successful and I'm going to make a shit ton of money. That was just always my mindset. And then I grew up and I went through school and I got bullied and this and that. And I have 3 sisters, and anyone who has sisters knows that it's a very humbling time. And that confidence fell off. I don't know. It ran away. It fell off. And I didn't do well in school. I'm not a good student. Do not put a test in front of me because it's not going to go well. And just because I didn't I could see right through it. I was like, why do I need to know y equals mx plus b? What is this going to do for me in my life? And I drove my parents nuts because I came home and I was like, this is ridiculous. But I always did really well in reading and writing because I knew that that would be important. Everything else, like math, I was just like, you're crazy if you think I will not have a calculator one day. Yeah, I was, I gave my parents run for their money when it came to school. So nonetheless, couldn't get into a great college. And throughout college, I figured it out. I maneuvered. I really didn't want to go to college. I wanted to start a business, but I had no clue what I would start. I had no idea. And so I was in college for 5 years because, again, not the best student. And then once I graduated, again, I was like, if I could just start my business right now, if I could just do that. But I could not think of anything to do. I couldn't think of it. And so much of that had to do with my relationship with myself, but also timing. Like I can now look back and be like, I had to really go through some things in my 20s to do what I do now. It's all timing. And it was very divine timing. Definitely, if you told me that back then, I would have laughed and been like, please get away from me because there's no way. So I got a job at first as a receptionist at a local magazine in Boston, and I'm making 30 grand a year. Boston's very expensive to live in. And, I lived in the north end of Boston. Like, I had student loans. I like to go out, all these things. And I'm barely making, I think I was making $900 every 2 weeks, something like that. And my rent was like $1,000, all this stuff. And I remember I was 23 minutes into my first day. I looked at the clock, it was 9:23. And I said, there's no way I am doing this for the rest of my life. There is no way I will do this for the rest of my life. I'm committing to that right now. And I hated it. I hated it. And at the same time, I could take a step back and logically look at it and say, I need to be making money. I don't know what to do for a business. So I eventually segued into sales where I was selling ad space. And that was more money. I was getting out more. I wasn't just locked to the desk. I was like, okay, this is manageable. I still hate this, but this is manageable. And then eventually, my boyfriend at the time, my now husband, he had to move to New York for work. So a few months later, I followed and I moved to New York for work. And I started doing tech sales in Manhattan, which was fun. It was a great time. Manhattan's not for the faint of heart. I like to sleep. People in New York do not like to sleep. But it was really fun time in our 20s. So eventually I asked to go remote because then my husband was called for work out in New Mexico. We didn't know a freaking thing about New Mexico. We didn't know anybody who was out there, anybody who'd ever been. But something in us was like, we got to go. Best decision of our lives. We had the time of our lives. We were out there for a year. It was the best year ever. And January of 2020, I said, universe, come June 1st, I'm leaving this job and I'm starting my business. And at that point, I listened to every single podcast episode on how to start a business, what to do. But what I was finding is there was no one out there to help me figure out what to do for a business, like what my strong suit was. And I was like, if somebody could just sit with me and extract this from me and get me started, boom, I'd be great. There was no one out there. So that's going to be relevant in a second. But I said, okay, universe, I'm done. Like I have the savings. Like I can't do this anymore. I have to just throw myself out there. Well, and mind you guys, I was not spiritual at all then. I don't know where like the word universe came from. I didn't grow up religious, none of that. So I just out of the blue, I was like, universe, do this. It was crazy. So in the good old fashion of the universe and doing whatever they like to do, I didn't get to leave in June because I got laid off in the beginning of April, like everyone else in the world during COVID. I lost my job on a Monday, and my husband lost his job on a Wednesday. And I remember looking at him, and we're across the country for our whole family. This is why you have savings. So we were fine. But I looked at him and I said, you will never have to go back to work because I will retire you from your job. I'm starting my business. And I sat down and I worked so hard to get a business up and running. And again, I didn't know what it was going to be because I just started coaching. Like I just wanted to help people. And I remember I like put out an offer for like $75 an hour. I started posting on Instagram, on my personal Instagram, that people from work were affiliated with, people from my friends, family, people who like from middle school still followed me. And here I am just like talking into just doing it. doing videos and everyone being like, what the hell is this girl doing? Oh my God, that was a whole thing in itself. I was so scared to do that. And like people who weren't very nice in my life definitely let me know that I looked like an absolute idiot. And so I, but I just kept going. I was like, I am doing this. And I did not make a single dollar for 6 months. I didn't make a single dollar. And I worked so hard. And that little girl inside of me who had that unwavering confidence, she was gone. I was like, wow, I always knew I would own my own business and now I can't even do it. I'm a bum. I was just like, this is wow. I thought this would fly. I told Eric, don't even worry about getting a job. He won't even need one. And here I am just with absolute egg in my face. I was so excited telling my whole family, I'm starting a business, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Egg in my face. And so at that time, we were up on our year and we had the option to move back to New England, which is where we knew we wanted to settle and like get married and do all that. And we that's when like the crazy housing situation happened, especially back in like Boston area. We thinking we'd be able to buy a house when neither of us had income because my husband couldn't go back to work till October for like a whole other thing. But so we moved in with my mother-in-law, who's an absolute gem. She's great. And we moved into her old living room. And it felt like my whole life just like fell apart. I am somebody who like values having privacy, and like it was just during this time that I'm living with like three other people. I have two dogs and a cat, and every single insecurity I ever faced in my life just came up to the surface. Every single one. And my savings is dwindling. And at the time, because we weren't married, my husband and I weren't sharing money. I was just like about to have no money left. And I was like, what just happened in my life? My dogs, who loved each other, started fighting and hating each other, and we had to separate them. And that killed me more than anything, because like that was my family. And they never hurt each other or anything. They just started scrapping and beefing. And I was like, they're two huge pit bulls. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. And I had to get in the middle of it once, and I was like, never again. There was just so much there. And so at that point, I was so desperate that I sought manifestation. And I was like, I'm going to try that. So in the guidance I received from like Pinterest article I was reading, I sat down on my rug and I visualized $25,000. And guess what did not come? $25,000. So I just did what they say. Oh, visualize this. And then in the shower, tell yourself you're a millionaire. Pfft, please. I was doing all the things, writing it down 1,000 times, everything. Nothing came in. And that's where I was like, I'm just being punished. Everyone can do it but me. And now I know that I had to go through, and guys, that journey, it lasted 3 years. So that was like 6 months. This was practically a 3-year thing. It was a long time for me. And I believe that to be because my purpose in life is to guide people through that, and to not make it 3 years, to make it a lot shorter from the lessons I had to learn through that period. And so as I was doing all of this manifestation stuff and really falling into the toxic positivity side of manifestation, and I just realized that nothing came my way until I healed my belief against it, right? Because what I'm saying specifically at that time is I need $25,000. Well, now looking at it, just the word need shows that it's out of desperation. And when you manifest, you're tapping into universal laws, and there's nothing there but love. So you're already disconnected. And when I would say I'm a millionaire, when I had a red bank account and a lot of credit card debt, I felt so uneasy in my body. I felt a literal wall in my body. And that was my nervous system saying this doesn't feel safe to us. So I was actually doing myself a disservice. And that's where this is where affirmations can get hairy. I was doing myself a disservice because every single time I said a millionaire, I was putting out the vibration of money's not safe to me, don't send it. That's exactly what was happening. So it was a very, very interesting journey. And then kind of fast forward, I I stepped into being a channeler. And now I should mention my business beforehand was a niche expert, where I just like I was that person who wished somebody sat down and helped me figure out my business, that's what I was doing for other people. And that was okay. I did okay with that. But I wasn't really making like livable money with it. And it wasn't until I stepped into figuring out that I was a channeler, which we could definitely get into if you want, that I shifted my business and then actually built like a sustainable business because I manifested it. And I manifested it because I made the space for it. So that was a very long winded answer to your question, but I hope that was helpful for everyone.
That's amazing. I deeply resonate with, and you know this because we had a call last week, but with those feelings that you had, and I'm sure so many people do. And, you know, we're going to dive into some of the things that I want to talk about based on your
Yeah.
experience that I think everybody has experienced. And this whole online visualize and say your, and I'm like,
Yes.
please just stop. Like,
Yeah.
that's not just it. You know what I mean? Like we need
That's the
to
last
get even
step.
deeper.
That's the
Yeah.
last step. It's the last step and it's like literally 3% of the whole thing.
And I love that you go beyond that because like even in our call last week, I was like, okay, visualization, you know, the daily rituals, all that crap. I'm like so far past that. Like
Yeah.
that's not going to solve this issue. And I know there's
Not
an
at all.
issue there. Like
100%. It's not. And it won't. And no matter how many times you do it, it won't. And when it comes to any type of daily ritual, I always say, like, I don't want to see something like that structured in your life because I want you to do it intuitively. Some mornings you might want to wake up and journal. Other mornings you might want to go out and go for a run. Either are fine. But if you sit down and you force yourself to journal when you don't want to because you think you have to, the amount of resistance you are putting out is crazy. It's, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's all.
continue. Sorry. I keep chiming in.
That's okay.
I can
So
talk
we're
about
gonna
this all
dive.
day.
We'll dive into that more, but before we go into manifestation specifically, growing your business. So once you actually like got it going, what were your biggest lessons that were outside of your expertise, more so from like the strategy perspective, you know, things that you just maybe weren't aware came along with running and starting and growing a business itself and all the different hats you have to wear and all of that.
How important efficiency is in organization. And honestly, more than that, it's who you have to become to be the person to run the business that you want to run. So for me, I wasn't really like an organized person. Like I leave my cups around my house all the time. My husband's always like, "There's 700 cups out." I'm like, "Oh, sorry," like, and I wasn't super intentional. I would just kind of willy nilly things.
Mm-hmm.
That can't happen in a business. I had to teach myself how to be intentional. I had to teach myself how to use my time wisely. And for me, I work in sprints. So I'm going to sit down and say, okay, from 2:30 to 3, I'm doing this one thing. Cell phone's off. I have a full glass of water next to me. Dogs are away, whatever it is. Nothing is distracting me. For those 30 minutes, I'm doing this one thing. And when that clock strikes 3, if I want to continue, I will. And if not, then I won't. And so for me, it was that. It was the efficiency, it was the organization, it was really holding my hand to the fire of becoming the person and implementing the habits needed to run that. Another piece of that too was finances, right? I'd always been good with money, minus everything that kind of happened with me. And I had to rebuild my confidence back with that. But I now look at money as a puzzle, right? Like, say there's something that we have to pay off, right? I look at that as a puzzle versus pouring my whole identity into it. So I literally shut off that part of my brain that's like, oh my gosh, well, you have to pay off this loan of this. Well, no, I look at that as a puzzle. I say, okay, there's $16,000 left on my student loans or something like that. I'm going to look at this as a puzzle. Here's how this portion of the business can support that. I'm going to use this funds from that to do that. And then I'm going to build this up to that. And then that'll be paid off then. Right? So really understanding where like logic comes in and the balance between all of that.
Those are great lessons. I love that. Now, let's talk about your intuition because you are so deeply connected to it. And we know intuition plays a huge factor in being an entrepreneur. How did you strengthen that muscle? Like, how did you get so in tuned with it?
I had no choice. And if I had a choice, I probably wouldn't have done it. because no one tells you to do it. Everyone tells you to buy their strategy and call it a day. And what I can tell every single one of you from personal experience, but from channeling, strategy is 5% of the success. 5 freaking percent. 95% is made up of a lot of other things. And the 5% is what people focus on the whole time until they eventually plateau. And that's just what happens. It is 5%. I had no choice. I've always been intuitive, but I had no choice. I was literally at rock bottom and I had this voice, and sometimes this voice, Jessica, was 0.0000001% loud. It was that quiet, but it was always there, and I was like, I have to follow this. And when it comes to manifestation and all of the things, I will tell you the best asset you have in any aspect of your life is your intuition. So I want to kind of explain what intuition is for a second. Same with gut feeling or your gut, whatever term you use. Your higher self knows what you want. It knows what you want out of life. And your higher self communicates with you through your intuition, through that little voice, through that feeling in your stomach. It's basically like your customized Google Maps to get you to your end goal. Everyone disconnects from it though, because mentors are going to tell us something better. So let me just pay them $1 billion and get myself into trouble because this person knows better than I do. Now, I'm not saying you don't ask for help. Help's really important, but so often people ignore this voice inside and try to get that information elsewhere because of their relationship with themselves. They don't trust themselves. They don't believe in themselves. So for me, I had to go on a journey of rebuilding that trust with myself and my intuition. And little did I know that it was because I could actually channel, which, mind you, I didn't figure out till I was 30 years old. 29, actually. I think it was 29. And now, intuition, I can't channel without it. I have to trust what comes into my intuition when I'm channeling someone and say it, and that it's a channel, right? Like there's a whole journey there, but it is the best asset in your business and your life.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about manifestation itself. We've touched on it a little bit more, a little bit, saying that it's not just visualization and whatnot. So, what
Yes.
exactly is manifestation, and how is your approach so different than what we see out there online?
So manifestation is it's the same thing as a goal, it's the same thing as a desire. It's just however you want to paint the picture. But it's having a vision of something that you want to call forward into your life. It is having this thing that you want to turn into a reality. And what makes my approach so different is that there's no toxic positivity with it. We don't shy away from where your body feels uncomfortable receiving this, because what I learned as a channeler, guys, and so I say, and I'll talk about the framework that I have, and I'll walk you guys through that, because all just from channeling. And I sit here and I'm like, this information is literally straight from the source. This is straight from the universe saying, here's how you manifest. And it's the coolest thing. Healing is involved in that. If you do not feel safe receiving something, you will not receive it. Safety is anchored in your nervous system. We must focus on your nervous system as it pertains to manifestation. So, example, when I was in desperate times and I'm saying I'm a millionaire, that was my nervous system lighting up, being like, oh, we do not feel safe receiving that. Because I had to unfold so many money beliefs that I had that just weren't serving me. And mind you, so much of this was in my subconscious mind. I had to work to tap into that to bring it forward. 95% of our reality is manifested from our subconscious. It is hard to tap into your subconscious. That's just the reality of it. It can be done through deep meditation, through channeling. Like that's what I do. I hop back there for people. Hypnotherapy is a great way. Your dreams, right? But all the beliefs in our conscious mind, it makes up 5%, 3 to 5%, honestly. The subconscious is huge. And so my approach is very much centered on, we have our big North Star, right? Like what's the North Star? Maybe, and I'll just use money because that's what everyone tries to manifest. $1 million. Okay, we're gonna start by manifesting 100. People freak out when I say that. They're like, oh, no way. I'm going for 100,000. Okay. Your nervous system right now is telling me, hell no. So what's going to happen is you're taking the road of a lot of freaking resistance to get there. Why don't we take the road of least resistance and let's start with $100? Because right now you have no belief that you can manifest money. So we have to show you that you can. We need to prove to your system that you can and that it's safe receiving. So if it's not 100, then we're starting with $5. Like we're starting small, and it's the ego that comes in and tells you that that's a waste of time. But you will be amazed. So I have a challenge that I do in my membership, and I had somebody in there. She was $25,000 in debt, and she's like, "I'm going to start by manifesting 5,000, or I'm going to manifest 25,000." I was like, "Well, why don't we start with 5,000?" And then as she was going through it, the 5,000 was too heavy for her system. So we started with $100. In 3 days, she manifested her $100. Okay, great, 200. In 1 day, she manifests $200. 2 days later, she's manifesting 1,000. So it all adds up. But when we have such a big picture there, the system freaks. And so I think just my gift of being able to see people's nervous systems, it really showed me how important that safety was. But to get that safety, we do have to look at the blockages that you have. And now there's a big difference between an actual blockage, a thing that is blocking your manifestation, and resistance. And that's like a whole other conversation. But resistance is more so a distraction, whereas a blockage is like a visceral reaction of like, I'm paralyzed, like something's going on here. And you know, intuitively, you know the difference. We got to work through those blockages. And in order to do that, we've got to do some healing. And then once we do the healing, once we work on the safety, then we can visualize. And again, visualization is just a small part of it. Then we can do affirmations, but we're only going to do affirmations that feel safe, right? And so that's the approach I've taken. It's very practical, but it works. And I'm like, this is what I needed back when I was in desperate straits.
Now, what are some of the things that help people heal? Like when you were helping me, it was like EFT
Yes.
tapping and, the butterfly tapping and stuff like that. What are
Yeah.
other things that help?
Oh, it's there's so many different tools and modalities out there. It really is dependent on the person. So I will say that it's very dependent on the person. But some great things to do are EFT tappings. That's great for your subconscious. It's great for your nervous system. Butterfly taps, as you talked about. Meditation, if you're there. A lot of people take time to ease into that, and that's totally fine. Verbal processing is probably the biggest one. And that's simply just talking to somebody you feel safe with. Therapy is great for the conscious mind, but again, that's only like 5%. We do really want to focus on the 95%. So even verbal processing with the right person, you're able to connect those dots subconsciously. What else? There's a few others. Like visualization can be good. Exercises where you're connecting with a past version of yourself is incredibly effective. Because a lot of the times, not spoiler alert here, the reason why you don't feel safe is because there's just a past version of you who's pulling a fire alarm in your body. And we just got to sit with them, and we got to validate them, and we got to nurture them. And then they stop. And a lot of it comes down to the fact, like, especially in the beginning, is people have just pushed emotions down their entire life. We just got to bring the emotion up one by one. And a lot of times that just starts with a quick conversation, and then the tears start flowing and they start coming out. That's really what it comes
Yep.
down to, which is so important. Like whenever I'm on calls with people, they're like, "I'm so sorry for crying." I'm like, "I hope that you're sobbing this entire time because we're getting this energy out. So let it rage, please."
Oh, that's so funny. I was doing the child one, where we go back and yesterday, so last night, and I was totally fine, absolutely fine. But for some reason, my eyes just kept watering, and I
Yeah.
wasn't crying whatsoever.
Right.
But like my eyes were just like dripping, and I was like, "What is going on?" Like I'm not.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's so weird,
I
so
was doing
weird.
breath work the other day, and the same thing was happening to me out of my left eye. And just like you, like I wasn't crying, but like my eye was pouring water, and I was like, "This is so weird. This is so like just let it happen."
Especially with like the yawning and stuff like that. Like I know that's when you're like
Yeah,
releasing something. It's
yeah,
so interesting you when you become aware of how your body's reacting to stuff.
absolutely. Yes, 100%.
Now, let's talk about this place that I was at last week because I'm sure a lot of people get to this place where you're doing everything in your business. Nothing is moving. You have no idea what's blocking you. You're starting to think, okay, is it me? Like, is the universe telling me that this is not the path that I should be going down? Like, are they like flat out like blocking me because this is not where I should be going with my business? Like, what is going on? How does someone figure out whether it's like energetics, whether it's like strategy, like without obviously you telling them? Like, is there any way for them to have a clue as to what is blocking them?
You will know intuitively. You just have to be willing to tap into that. You'll know. You will know because you're going to try all the strategies, you're going to hire all the people, you're going to do all the things, and still nothing's going to work. Telltale sign, and I will tell you guys, 90, I'm going to say, I want to say 99, but I'll be generous, say 97% of the time, it has nothing to do with your business and it has everything to do with you and your vibration. Because if you think about it, you are the attraction point, especially if it's just you and your business. You are the attraction point of success in your business. And if your vibration has a ton of cinder blocks on it, is how I see it, just like a bunch of weight, nothing's coming through. Chances are that the vibration you're putting out is like of desperation of like, oh my gosh, I need this money because I have to support my family, because I have to do this, and then this person's going to get mad at me, and it's just so much pressure we put on the business. So nothing's wrong with the business for the most part, right? But that's the very last thing that we look at. Chances are nothing's wrong with the business. It's you. People don't like that though. One, it's not talked about because everyone wants to just sell these strategies and implement this and do that and you'll be good to go. It's you. If you are noticing that, there is something within you that is not safe receiving this, whatever this is. That's all. So if you're noticing that, I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, is this me or is this the business? And you will know the answer. Your ego is not going to want you to know the answer, but you will know in your body what the answer is. Might take you some time, but you will. And then you got to start diving in. Why? What is it? What's blocking it? What beliefs of mine are not aligning with what I'm trying to call forward? Am I manifesting to solve a problem, which is a huge no-no, right?
We're going to talk about that.
Example. Yeah, should we segue into that now? It seems like a good segue.
Yeah,
Let's
that's that
yeah.
is a when I saw that on your Instagram, I was like, oh shoot.
Yeah. So let's do that because we all do it. But so let me explain. So first things first. You don't want to manifest to solve a problem, and here's why. When you manifest, you're tapping into universal laws. Everything in the universe is out of love. The universe does not see you as having a problem. They see as everything working for you. So, for example, your $25,000 of debt, I'm just kind of using the same example from that person in my membership. They don't see that as a problem. They see that as your biggest blessing, right? So, when we approach it as, need is the telltale sign, I need to manifest this $25,000 to pay off this debt, immediate the stars are not aligning. Like you're just off on the stars aren't going to align. You're going down a path of a lot of freaking resistance because it's not in alignment with the universe. And that's the purpose of manifestation, tapping into those universal laws. So that does not mean that she can't manifest that $25,000, but we have to reframe how we're approaching this. And there's likely going to be needing healing in your body to reframe this, to genuinely reframe this and not to like BS this statement. So, how to reframe that particular example, right? I love where I'm at now and I love my finances. I do. I don't care if you have 5 pennies in your bank account. You love your finances. And you may have to take you to a point to accepting that. That's where the healing comes in. But, anyways, I love the money I have in my bank account. And one of my favorite things is being able to be a good steward of that money. I like to look at the areas of my life, and whenever I get paid, I love to divvy it up into buckets. I'm going to put $100 towards vacation and $50 towards going out and a $2,000 towards my student loans and then $3,000 towards this debt. Like, it's so fun for me to be strategic and move that money around. I love the thought of that. And it's really exciting for me to think that more money could come in so that I can do that at a higher scale. I love that. That's what I want to manifest. I want to manifest being able to budget like this. I want to manifest being able to see those accounts grow because it's fun for me, not because it defines me, not because of XYZ, not because it's solving a problem, but because it's fun. It's like a puzzle for me. I love that. So, universe, I'm throwing it out there. How about $1,000 more to put into this little piggy bank that I have so I can continue doing this? It's really fun. I enjoy this. You see the difference between that of like, I need $5,000. I gotta pay this off. It's really expensive. My husband's gonna kill me. This and that. Like, all these things. No.
I can feel
That,
the weight in that last
yeah.
statement. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, well, my spouse is gonna get so mad. They're gonna, and then I put all this financial strain on our marriage and this and that. And it's like, if we're manifesting from that state, that's all you're attracting more is that chaos into your vibration. And I'm not saying that we're ignoring the fact that there could be some chaos there, but I'm saying let's just put that right here and look at what we have. There is something there for everyone that you can look at and be like, that is it. That's what I enjoy doing. And you just reframe and you manifest from that versus the problem.
I love that so much. Now, one of the biggest things people struggle with is how it's going to come about, or like when it's going to come about.
Yeah.
How do we, like, what is your advice on detaching from that process of it?
So I've channeled that a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you the advice received from channeling. They always say the how is none of your business. And I'm always like, ooh, ouch, Band-Aid ripped off. The how is none of the business. And in part of the framework that I teach, the last step of that is, because I channeled this whole framework, and I channel a source named Laura. So I was tapping into Laura, and I was like, Laura, I want to lay out a framework, like just like easy 4 steps that work for people. And the last step was receiving your surprise. And it was interesting because they would not say receive your manifestation. It was surprise. Because for those of you who've manifested, you likely know that when that comes through, it is 10 times better than you've ever imagined. Example for me, I'm sitting here just trying to manifest a couple bucks to get by. I became a channeler, right? Which was my manifestation, and opened up a whole new level of abundance I didn't even know existed. I could have never guessed that. That a freaking surprise, you know? The same thing with when you can just I work with spiritual people, so it's easier for me to say this, but then I will say this general. For those of you who like manifestation and tap into that spirituality or God or whoever, you're putting it out there that you trust that there's something else out there that you're co-creating with. When you're trying to look at the how, you're not allowing them to do their work. You're trying to control how they go about their work. Do you like to be micromanaged? No, I don't. Right? And so how you do it, it sounds so cliche and it's intangible, but you trust this thing that you believe in to actually deliver. You have no control of the time. You never will. And you're just going to be on the hamster wheel the more you think you do. You cannot control it. But what you can do, and here's a tangible aspect of that, every single day, you ask your intuition, what's my current step toward this manifestation? But here's what trips people up. They think it has to be tangible. Sit at the desk for 9 hours and do the strategy, and then it'll all come through. Build out this email funnel, man, or you're screwed. It's never that. It's rarely that, I should say. A lot of the times, it's go outside and play. Go get ice cream in the middle of the day. Go sit with your inner child for 5 minutes. Go ride a bike. But then we're like, oh, no, that's wrong. They're trying to get you to play, because what's the vibration of play? Light, fun, easy. And that is you aligning with that, is you aligning with the vibration of your manifestation. And that's how it comes forward. So releasing the how, I'm not gonna, blow smoke here and say it's an easy thing, because sometimes it's not, and sometimes it is. The more you do it, the easier it gets. But you really are taking that trust fall. And that's what you sign up for when you manifest. People make manifestation seem like this walk in the park. You're signing up for a freaking journey and a half, man. You are
Yep.
signing up for a journey. Yeah. Your manifestation is so powerful, and a lot more powerful than you just receiving it. Your hand will be held to the fire to be the person that you are meant to become to receive that. And that's what you're asking for when you're signing up for it. It's a beautiful thing, but it's not something to mess with, because it can be an intense journey. The best journey ever, in my opinion, but it expands you for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an understatement.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I'm like, I don't even know how to put that into human words, but for real.
But that totally makes sense. And it just makes it seem more doable. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm glad.
from somebody who's like a very big control freak and is just like I feel like gripping, like I've said this in the past to Hannah, I'm like, I feel like I'm gripping so hard on the outcome, like getting it, that it just like, you're just choking it. Right. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it just totally makes more sense. I want to talk about what you have available to support your community, your membership, these new one-on-ones that you've been doing that I absolutely like over the moon loved. So let's talk about what's going on in your world.
Yeah, so I have a membership. It's called the Natural Manifester, and it starts with a challenge. So that's where I walk you guys through the 4 steps that I have towards manifesting. Like the last one we talked about of being receiving your surprise. I have 30 days of channeled exercises to help your body feel safe and bring you through your manifestation. It's really fun. And then a bunch of resources in there for healing and connecting with the universe and all that. And then right now, just for the time being, I don't know when this airs, but I go on maternity leave beginning of March to have my baby. But for the next few weeks, I open up my calendar to one-off sessions. I used to never do these, but I had somebody ask me, Jessica was one of them, and I had a few other people be like, do you offer 1-hour sessions? And I always said no, because I wanted more time with people. But then I was like, let's do it. They've been so powerful. They've been so fun. So for the next few weeks, I have those open, and then I'm sure I'll open them back up once baby's here, but I'm not sure. So those are the 2 things I have, but love for you guys to come hang out with me on Instagram and just share any feedback you have from this episode with me. Like, I love to hear it. And I just love welcoming people into my community and being there to support you. Like, this is not a journey to walk on your own.
No. Well, I'm forever thankful because you opened it up at the exact time that I was like, I've had it. Like,
Yeah,
I need to figure this out. This isn't working.
I get it.
Feels like I don't know what they say, divine timing or like perfect timing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I highly recommend people tuning in. If she's not on mat leave yet and she has spots available, book them up.
Yes, please. I would so appreciate that. Just like being able to sit and pour love into you all and guide you. Like, we all need it. I have people who help me do it. I could do it for people all day. It's not so easy doing it for myself. Like, we all need a little help. So I'm there if you feel called. But Jessica, I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now, if anybody wants to connect with you, where do you hang out online?
Yeah, so Instagram. So at Gabrielle Laura. Gabrielle has 2 E's, just so I could like get that handle. At Gabrielle Laura is the best spot. My website's gabriellelara.com, and that's it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining, for sharing such incredible insights, for sharing your journey, which I know many people probably resonated with. I deeply resonated with it. You almost brought me to tears. It's been such a lovely time connecting with you and just learning more about you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I've loved this. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us today. Your presence truly elevates Love Unplugged into a home for freedom-driven women who aspire to be visionary CEOs. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be honored if you'd take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us bring more impactful conversations to our community. Let's continue to grow this empowering community together. Until next time.